Your chance to see if you can be Lucy or Desi, that kind of thing, because they're here in this community looking for people to play the role in a made-for-TV movie on CBS about Lucy and Ricky. And of course, I'm going to apply for the part of Fred, and we have to find an Ethel right now, or maybe a high test. It doesn't matter. In any event, we'll be working on these strange things. In the next hour, also, we have the word for the day. That's a new feature. How could it be a new feature? I don't even have a show. Actually, it's a feature that I used to use called Word for the Day. So get your dictionaries ready, and we're going to have you define a word for me, and then we have a musical bit that goes with it. So you see? And now how will I know? Because I know the word. You see, there's only one word and only one bit, so it works out that way. In any event, we have a very special caller on the line for you today, and this is kind of a shift gears. We go from the silly that we did to what we call the unexplained, the area of the unexplained. Like, why am I in this business? I've always tried to figure that one out. My guest on the WJNO phone lines is noted psychic researcher Dr. Stephen Kaplan, a good friend. And Dr. Kaplan, welcome to WJNO.
And a very pleasant good afternoon.
And a very pleasant good afternoon to you too, sir. Haven't spoken to you. Let me see. You're probably losing spaces in your Rolodex to keep track of me, huh?
No, not at all. When I think of Miami, I think of the best radio broadcaster. I don't mean Craig Worthing. Forget Craig. I mean Mike Spindell.
Oh, okay. Well, listen, Craig is a good friend of mine, and we like him. And the bottom line is that it's always good to have you on because you're one of the more outspoken folks. Now, for those people in our audience in the Palm Beach County and in the North Broward area and in the points north who are not familiar with Dr. Kaplan, tell us a little bit about Dr. Stephen Kaplan and your research.
Well, Steve Kaplan is the founder and director of the Parapsychology Institute of America. And in 1971, had taught the first course in parapsychology at the State University of Stony Brook in the early 70s, went on to teach 52 courses in parapsychology with the New York City Board of Education.
I don't know whether you know it or not, but Jill, who spoke with you and set up the interview, is also a alma mater, is Stony Brook, too.
Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear it.
Oh, okay.
No, because Stony Brook had a pretty good creativity, except when I was teaching, I was the head of an investigating committee on corruption on campus, and between payola kickbacks and people with 3 or 4 jobs or secretaries who couldn't fire, because I guess she was servicing some people, it was quite a brouhaha.
Well, Jill had nothing to do with that. That happened before she got there.
Other than that, there are individual outstanding instructors and students at the university. It's a large university.
Sure is.
But it's not a private punching club, which some people thought it was. Another case, and after that, I went on to found 1 year after the PIA, Parapsychology Institute, I found the Vampire Research Center, which became world famous, is in the World's Almanac, and went on to write and co-author about 6 books. Some of them actually did come out, many of them now for Bantam Books, and the books are called True Tales of the Unknown, and the first one came out in 85 and reissued about 2 months ago with the editor Sharon Jarvis.
Mm-hmm.
Second one just came out in November. We sold together about 130 to 150,000 copies, so that isn't bad. And next year, I get my revenge on somebody named Ed Warren.
Yes.
Because next year, my short story at Amityville comes out, and there's a war going on, ladies and gentlemen, that the public does not know about. For example, I am the first parapsychologist, the only one who solved and proved the Amityville horror. That book, that movie you saw, was put on a hoax. I'm also the only parapsychologist ever to make a magician called the Amazing Randy disappear. And I've done that on many a program, and I mentioned the Honorable Craig Worthing, and he still has his friend, the Unamazing, on his show, so I can make him disappear also.
Well, I think that you remember the last time we got together, or at least the last couple of years, I've tried to set you two up, and he will never debate you on the air.
Well, again, anybody who has the facts on the Unamazing Randy and who can prove he's a phony and a pretender who knows very little about paranormal and who tends to fake his stuff, he's never going to get on a debate or a show with me because I'll excise him like I did all the other phonies. In either case, it's great to be in Miami because it was only just a few months ago I got a phone call from a major writer for a paper called the Miami Herald,
mm-hmm.
And in the call, the gentleman asked me whether, because I am the world's top expert on modern vampires, whether a gentleman named Governor Martinez of Florida was a vampire.
Uh-huh.
And I paused for a moment because, you know, of confidentiality of clientele, I don't really kiss and tell. However, I said to this very noted Pulitzer Prize writer at the Miami Herald, I said, why do you feel he's a vampire?
Was that Tom Fiedler or Dave Barry?
Well, I can't mention Dave Barry's name right away.
Oh, okay.
I may appear in his column. But if you ask me, my answer is Dave Barry.
Oh, okay.
Okay? So Dave asked me, and I like Dave. I think he's a great sense of humor.
Also a good friend of mine, by the way.
He has a great sense of humor, and yet at the same time, when you call the Vampire Research Center, we're not auditioning for the Gong Show, and therefore, if Dave feels or he suspects that maybe Governor Martinez may be a vampire, who am I not to at least investigate a Pulitzer Prize winner?
Well, I think that's because when you take a look at pictures of, he doesn't photograph well.
Well, he says, Dave said to me that he wore sunglasses.
Yes.
He wears sunglasses.
He's very gaunt, too.
And indeed, he's gaunt, and a couple other things he told me, and I realized that it may very well be for the protection of the public. I have to investigate the governor. I mean, we've done research of presidents who may be or have been accused of being vampires. And the governor is certainly, you know, somebody to be investigated. So we've been in the process of doing that. So if anybody out there knows of or believes that Governor Martinez is indeed a vampire, please give us some more information. We would certainly appreciate that. And we would certainly hope that the governor would respond to our vampire census. But
Dr. Kaplan, in line with that, wouldn't you say that because we're discussing freedom on the anniversary of the birthday of this country, 214 years, that even a vampire has the right to become governor?
Well, there is no constitutional law that prevents a vampire from either being a governor or a president. I guess if they're obscene in Miami, I think they can't sing or dance even in a private club. But I think that it's not illegal, especially among politicians.
That's true. Most of them are bloodsuckers anyway, right?
Well, I was horrified to find out in Florida, especially in Miami, the most popular thing to hunt are old people. And I'm very shocked, and I hope that people in Miami, and even the governor, if before he resigns or should not resign, should he profess to being a vampire publicly, would at least have on the law that anyone 50 years or over attacked by any of the mutants out there would be given a double length of time in prison. As well as I think certainly that all females, I don't care what their age, should be given free lessons in karate and any other defense to protect them against the mutant men that meander around Miami area. And having had a mother who's already been beaten by some young thug who hunt down old people, I think that Miami ought to act now and not wait till we have the bodies lying on the floor.
Probably would also be a good idea for the governor and the mayor and the various police officials to not worry so much about music and bad words
don't you think that
and bathing suits, and to worry about the real important priorities in this country.
Mike, obviously you recognize that when a governor is worried about whether someone sings a off-colored song, no matter how disgraceful it is in public, compared to all the drugs that are shipped through Miami and Florida, and all the other horrible things that are going on. I just spoke last week to a young lady from Miami who was a prostitute and also appeared in porno flicks. And I said to her, I knew this young lady as a school teacher. And I said, what happened to you? Went down to Miami to become a school teacher. And she told me that she couldn't make a living as a school teacher. She had a child, and she had to support the child. And on a school teacher's salary, she could hardly live.
Absolutely. That's an excellent point.
And I understand if there's a governor who's still running Florida, this is not a satellite of some South American country that is desperate to be mocked.
Yeah, but those are issues that draw people's, for instance, the issue of the bathing suits or the issue of the music draws people's attentions away from the real problems in this state, which are growth management and the economy and the ecology of South Florida and Florida in general. But we're getting a little far afield.
I just want to let you know that while I am the world's top expert on modern vampires,
you also pontificate.
I also pontificate against governors.
Hold on a second. I'm checking my handbook to see if I could use the word pontificate.
Well, you know,
yeah, I could use it.
That's another silly thing. I was going to say asinine, but I think they could take the first part and say that's pornographic.
Now, let me ask you a question, because you are very, very outspoken about issues. Whenever they have experts on with respect to flying saucers, they will naturally get, for instance, a astrophysicist or a psychologist or somebody from the Air Force. Whenever they do something on the paranormal, on the psychic, why do they always get magicians to do interviews? Why?
Because the people getting it are poetic idiots. Second, that people who run the radio... First of all, I've done 111 television programs and almost 1,500 radio shows, and I can tell you that many of the people who run it are nice people, but they're ignorant in the field. And they have no idea if a magician can reproduce an elephant, doesn't mean elephants don't exist. And I think in part, one, because they're ignorant. Two, because a group of atheistic magicians who used to be maybe doing Wonderama many thousands of years ago are looking to play a game. It's almost like a flim-flam type of garbage. Next, there are, in parapsychology, in UFOs, a lot of liars. Mm-hmm. A lot of the guests who are experts in fields are phonies. They're fakers, frauds, touch-up film manipulation. Look at the war I have had with Hans Holzer, a fellow who I exposed as a phony. Here's Ed Warren, a fellow I exposed as a phony for 15 years now, and still his publisher is one of my publishers. You know, I mean, they know what he is, a phony. They're still going to print it. Because the name of the game, Mike and Steve Kaplan, is grow up. The name of the game is money. And I guess when people have moral, ethical issues, it's out of the window.
We have a commercial, just talking about money, it's a great segue. Because we have a commercial break that we have to take, Dr. Kaplan. As you know, that this is not public radio, so we have from time to time interruptions throughout our conversation. But when we come back, I would like to talk a bit about the vampire census with you. Let me put you on hold, and we'll be right back, okay?
Yes, indeed.
We'll be back on the Jack Cole Show. Mike Spindell sitting in for Jack, who'll be back tomorrow at 3 o'clock. We'll take this break and be back.
Pianist David Syme. He's been called a human tape recorder. Just say it and he'll play it.
Not that I want you to play the whole thing because we don't have time.
I know.
A few bars of Inagata Davida.
And you heard his amazing talent on The Mike Miller Show, weekdays from 9 to noon on AM 1230 WJNO. Tune in to the Saturday Night Ballroom, featuring the hits of the 40s, 50s, and 60s, Saturday nights from 7:05 till midnight with yours truly, Dick Fatherly, and only on AM 1230 WJNO. This is AM 1230 WJNO.
23 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on the Jack Cole Show here on AM 1230 WJNO. Mike Spindell sitting in for Jack, and my very special guest on the hotline is Dr. Stephen Kaplan, parapsychologist. Anywhere along the line between now and 6 o'clock, if you have a question about the paranormal, the unexplained, psychic phenomena, please give us a call. Our phone number is 655-WJNO and 481-WJNO. That translates to 655-9566 and 481-9566. Our lines are open and available to you. And let's get back to Dr. Kaplan. Dr. Kaplan, we just had a call from the Vampire Defamation League. They're going to be after you.
Well, first of all, I didn't say it was always popular with vampires. Second of all, there are psychotic vampires. Third, there are vampiroids, which resemble vampires, that may attack people and kill them. In the Miami area, for example, we've had many reports of vampires. One report from West Palm Beach, Florida.
That's where we are right now.
Yeah, and it's a male named John, and John drinks blood, and he very much wants to turn into a real vampire, and he's been drinking blood in the area.
Wasn't there a case, and I was thinking of you when I heard this, it was either on one of the syndicated programs or on the evening news, where a person claiming to be a vampire sued a airline because they lost or destroyed his coffin, and he was suing them for the amount of, he needed several pints of blood to settle with this airlines. Have you heard that story?
Yes, I did. First of all, airlines have a responsibility. Do you know that if when you're dead and you have to fly, they charge you for 2 seats? I love this. Only in America and around the world. And
well, when you're dead, you don't mind it, right?
Well, your heirs should have the right to be able to bury you
That's
and
true.
pay for costs and not to be ripped off by airlines.
But this was a guy who really thought he was a vampire and settled for blood?
That's correct.
Oh,
there are people, first of all, there are between 10 to 20,000 blood cults and satanic groups in North America alone, many in the Florida area, who drink animal or human blood. We're talking about ounces and even gallons in some cases. Please understand, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not endorsing acts of vampirism. Criminologists don't endorse crime necessarily, and I certainly don't endorse vampires.
They study it.
I study it.
Absolutely.
In fact, a friend of mine is coming out with a book, We Don't Die, next year, too, and Putnam & Sons, which will tell you
Is that
about...
Jeff Charles?
That's friend Joel Martin, who's a radio broadcaster.
Because Jeff, a former talk show host, believes that people don't die.
Well, he's right. Ghosts exist, but we'll get into that, hopefully.
Absolutely, because, again, there's this new hot movie that's coming out, and I know that you're very involved in the way things are depicted on film and on television, and we're going to be talking about that before the end of the hour with you.
Yeah, and in fact, I just had contact with the Cardinal, Cardinal O'Connor in New York, to no avail. It seems that there was a program on where my arch enemy, Ed Warren, a fellow who I feel has his cases of science fiction, and when he does cloud readings and shows you poltergeist, you know you're in trouble. And I sent copies to the Cardinal, pictures of Ed Warren excising levitating Cabbage Patch dolls and demonic forces, and an article where he identifies 150-year-old dead vampires attacking people in Vermont. And I said to the Cardinal, does he really want the church associated with this type of garbage?
Well, you know, you should, if you sent the
By
thing
the way,
to him, you should
rather go gay bashing rather than answer that question.
No, I was going to say either that or if you coached it in the way of them being pregnant ghosts, then the Cardinal would have been involved.
Well, it's always interesting how people who are married give advice to everybody else who is married, and I feel that once you... seriously, because I have, not because I have 4 kids, which I do, but it really takes someone, I think, to have been married and have children to have an understanding really of human life.
And the pressures involved.
I think it's a lot easier for the Cardinal to play games with the public on exorcism. I don't know if you knew, he came out recently that the possession was real, and he had this gentleman on representing the church named Leclerc, I think. And I don't know where this guy does his research, but he quoted on a television program, he said, it's Malachi Martin who did exorcism, proved it. Now, I know Malachi Martin, who wrote Hostage to the Devil. That's baloney. I mean, obviously, if the church is going to have people who are what I call incompetent, or they're going to play theological garbage with the public, then possession will never be understood, because there is something called positive possession. In other words, spirits which help you, guide you. If a loved one died and they come in contact with you and possess you and help you, that's not terrible. And in almost 99.9% of any cases of ghost phenomena, it's positive. So for these people to fake their stories in order to get books and chapters and movies is science fiction. And for the Catholic Church, hey, the wonder why they're losing all their people. I mean, nobody wants to be a Catholic anymore the way things are going.
Shouldn't I say that,
say it, Mike. It's your last time.
No. What I was going to say is many of the primitive cultures believe in positive possession. Isn't that correct?
Absolutely. And to modern cultures, people have been visited by angels. People have been visited by the spirits of their loved ones. Are these demonic forces? Come on. What kind of garbage this is? Was this Jimmy Baker week?
Well, you know, this is the bottom line with Cardinal O'Connor, the fact that those people who disagree with church doctrine will be excommunicated from the Catholic Church.
In my opinion, is great. Let them become Episcopals. Let them become Protestant, which is great. What do you think Protestantism is? Is a revolt against the nonsense of some of the Catholic beliefs.
Down here...
By the way, my wife is a Catholic who most Catholics don't agree with the cardinal, which is why Catholics do use birth control and why Catholics don't believe in what these people believe in, and they're losing all their people. So it's almost like a dinosaur in modern times.
That's absolutely correct. And one of the questions that I would also have for you would be the fact that down here in South Florida, or in the Gold Coast area of South Florida, there's a coven of witches who have been put in a very untenable position, believing in the goddess, I guess, Wicca, the old religion, and they have been shot at by people who keep mistaking them for blood cults and satanic cults.
In my opinion, reborn Christians should have done it right the first time. And second of all, who cares if you worship many gods or one God, as long as you're a decent person to yourself and other people. And these so-called fanatical Christians and others are nothing other than bigots and poetic morons who do a disservice to their religion by mocking other people. They try to do away with the American Indian. They'll do away with anybody who does not believe like they do. And that type of thinking, that fuzzy type of thinking, that only if you walk like their duck and quack like their duck, you're acceptable, is stupid and nonsensical. And church, first of all, I once worked in Wall Street as an account executive in Wall Street, Investors Planning Corporation. I can mention other corporate firms I work with. One of the wealthiest dinosaurs is the Roman Catholic Church. So make no mistake about it, their power, their economic power is very powerful.
Tell us about the vampire census.
Okay. Aside from that...
other than that...
Yeah, we look at the research center in a very serious way. We look for primary, secondary, even tertiary evidence. We do separate the kooks and the crazy and the psychopaths and the degenerates and the S&M, the blood cultists and the blood fetishists and the whole thing. I'm a maverick and a non-traditionalist, as almost anyone could probably surmise. When we did the census, it was because after a few years I recognized the limitation of attempting to use a phone and a few interviews to gather information. So what we did is saying, hey, look, I don't have all the answers to vampires. I'm the most brilliant person in the world on vampires. I still don't know enough on the field. I'm learning every day. And therefore, what we did is advertise around the world, and that's not just verbal, but we advertised everything from Gentleman's Quarterly, Esquire, Playboy, Playgirl, Red Book, McCall's. I can name every legitimate magazine, as well as every X-rated magazine, because, ladies and gentlemen, when you're researching vampires, you can't preclude they're not in the lowest form of a magazine, whatever that meant, or the highest quality. And you can't preclude they're not in the White House or anything. So if I was going to do an honest job, a worldwide census, I did that. And what we got is people who filled it out, and we have questionnaires which do separate all that nonsense. People can check on our work with the American demographics in terms of our census work. And we interviewed them. We set up interviews with vampires, and we've gotten a lot of it. In fact, the last few months, we've been inundated with dozens of German vampires. And I guess the walls are coming down faster because we haven't even touched the East Germany. The only thing that did make me a little tense, I guess, Mike, is in Austria, I received a mail from a vampire in Austria, and on the stationery was a nice hair-brushed picture of Adolf Hitler, as if he was a patron saint of Austria. It makes me a little concerned about some of the visual images of who they consider as a hero. In either case, we've gotten reports literally around the world, but mostly in America, and I think the reason, of course, is I speak relatively American English, which I guess is fading very quickly in Florida.
Absolutely.
And we're going to see probably in Florida and other states what has happened in Quebec and Canada, a crazy nonsense thing that when two people get into an accident, no one can talk to each other in a single language. But that's other issue. So we did the world's first census in the late 70s, and then to check and verify with the data, and also we learned from the first census, we did a second census. We made a comparative study. We found roughly about 300 physical vampires in North America. And each time we do this, A, it's economically expensive. B, we're not working with the federal government. So guys like Jesse Helms, who makes wonderful issues, why don't they stop growing tobacco, jerk out there? I mean, that's killing people.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I mean, I love these guys. They're after everything. They were after the CIA. I love this. He was after, he was after witches and other secret organizations like the Masons.
Well, again, it's whose ox or whose subsidies are being gored,
basically. The
thing,
Mike, is my family are Floridians. My brother, the king, lives up in Ocala and has a large corporation up there. And my sister is up in Port Charlotte, and my mother's getting mugged in Miami Beach.
Well, when are you going to make the transit and set up shop here in Florida?
I love you, Florida. Never.
Never?
Not never.
Thanks a lot. Steve, we're going to put you on hold for a second because we have some commercial business to take care of. And when we come back, I would like to talk a little bit about the phenomena that TV and movies getting involved in psychic realm, and we'll be talking with you about that. So our guest is Dr. Stephen Kaplan, parapsychologist. And right now we'll take this commercial break and hear from All Day Traffic, because this is your All Day Traffic radio station, Mike Spindell, in for Jack Cole on WJNO.